You are one of the few people that actually dances with me, which makes me just want to do the dance even more.
Mm.
Gotta get that little movement
Mm.
in, get the energy
I know.
flowing. All right, my
Beautiful.
friends, welcome back to another episode of the Inner Tapestry Series where Red and I talk about all things really, but really things that tie us back to our own unique cosmic blueprint and the things that can distort us in being able to connect with ourselves authentically. So, Red, if you would be so kind, please introduce yourself.
Absolutely. My name is Red MoonEagle. I am a psychic catalyst. I'm a healer. I'm a teacher. And this is my world. This is what I talk about all the time. This is my happy place. And it's a beautiful thing that Safrianna and I have this opportunity to share these things with the world to bring a little bit of clarity to kind of the messiness of things.
Things are very messy. It's a very messy world, and when we don't talk about these things, we just stay stuck in them. So yes, we bring this awareness and this openness to talking about the hard things that I think is so important right now. So thank you as
Yeah,
always. And just
absolutely.
in case you don't know me, I am Safriana Luna, the Queer Spirit Guide. I am also a teacher, healer, not so much the catalyst specifically, but sometimes a catalyst. Some sideways ways. But I am here to help visionary leaders really step into their blueprint so that they can actually have a positive impact on the people that they influence as leaders. So, yeah, today we have a very important and a little bit spicy topic to talk about, which is that there is no magic pill. We live in a very fast paced world right now where everyone just wants instant fixes. We're so used to having our phone right here. We can look up anything anytime we want. We can order something from the comfort of our home literally 24 hours a day and have it delivered within 24 hours if we want. Like the world has sped up so much that we're now like hurtling forward and we have all these problems that it actually takes a slowing down to notice and to heal and to eventually integrate, and we don't do that at large now. So this is such a dear to me topic because I know so many people are literally looking for that magic pill. They're looking for that product. They're looking for that person. They're looking for something that is going to fix what ails them overnight. And that is not how these things work. So,
No, it's so much more, and I'm going to use the spicy word. It is so much more toxic than even people realize
yeah.
because we're inundated constantly through all the things that you mentioned. And with this societal pressure in social groups, in connections to other people that you know that are like, oh, you're having this happen, take this pill. It did all these things for me.
Yep.
Drink this power drink. It did all these things for me. If you buy into this product line, it fulfills all the nutritional things you need. You don't have to worry about eating real food. Oh, that was a thing. I remember
Oh, I
that.
bet
That was a
you.
thing. Oh,
I bet
talk
that
about
made you
getting under
real
my collar.
spicy. Yes.
Whew. Um, and my pushback to that has always been that's not how life works. It's just not how life works. And I think there is a combination of a natural, I think humans are to a certain degree, we all kind of want to do it the easy way, right? Like we
Yeah.
want it to be easy. So it's natural that I think we would hope, right, that this one thing is going to do all the things. I think it's okay to hope for that.
Yeah.
In reality, untangling, that's not how things work, right?
Right.
And even a pharmaceutical that does a one thing, it can't fix the thing necessarily.
Right.
Um, and the toxicity of what that creates in our relationships with ourselves, the relationships with our family, our friends, the relationships in our communities. Um, you and I have both talked about how like MLMs are awful toxic. You know, they foster a toxic paradigm. There are certain work environments that foster that top down, I am the authority and I know all the
Mhm.
things and you're going to do the peon thing, you know, like, and looking up from the bottom going, you have the magic everything. If I could just do all the things you do, I'm going to be wealthy and wise and
Right.
popular and all these things. It's so toxic and it's pervasive. It's invasive. It is awful and it creates layers of trauma, not only mentally, emotionally, but physiologically. It
Mhm.
fosters continuing added layers of trauma.
Yep.
There is no magic product. There's no magic water machine. There's no magic formula for making yourself wealthy. There's no magical coaching you can say to somebody that they're all going to do this magical thing. Life is complex. And I'm so hot under the collar about the whole spicy topic that there are times that I just want to scream into the void going, really?
Yeah.
Stop. Stop layering it on top of each other. It's like making a toxic sandwich with biosludge in it and then adding more biosludge in it and not understanding why it doesn't taste good.
Right. Yeah. And it's so you've spoken to several of the things that I wanted to address, which is right the magic nutrition. So we have the physical fixes. Take this pill, eat this thing, drink this water, and your problems will be cured. Then we have the magic fix of the framework. If you apply this framework to your life, everything will be solved. Whether it's, you learned that from a business coach or a fitness coach or a whatever. And the idea that there is a magic pill, there would need to be a magic pill for every single person that's a different pill because every single person is a different person and has different results with literally everything. So the
Right?
idea, like, and I have fallen victim to this so many times because I'm a very loving, trusting person and I want to believe that we all have each other's best interests at heart. And I spent so many years buying into the next coaching framework or trying the supplement or, literally anything to fix a problem. And there is no quick fix. Now, some of these things, right? Supplements, for example. Some of us genuinely need a supplement or we need a medication to augment or, layer in another level of support to something that we're going through, but it still doesn't fix the root problem, nor does it cure anything. It just may help us get that leg up to be able to
Right.
function in a different way. And
Uh-huh.
yet we're so often told, like, this is the thing. This is the thing that's going to do it for you. And how many
Yeah.
times is that the truth?
Never. And
Yeah.
I have actually a funny story that actually happened to me recently, and I completely am falling on the sword of this is this is my own learned both behavior, my own resistance to supplements and taking things. Like I have a hard time taking stuff because I don't want to add anything in if I don't have to. It's just one more piece of something I have to keep track of. It's totally the way my brain works. But my doctor advised me to take this medication. It's a prescribed medication. It's a compounded thing, and it's supposed to help something. And I'd been taking like 4 other supplements, and she added this very specific compound. Now, in my brain, I went, "Oh, we're adding something," and they come in 2 little capsules. So I'm taking 2 little capsules. In my mind, I went, "Oh, I can discontinue taking these 2 other things." I just randomly picked 2 out of the 4 too. I didn't conscientiously like map it out, figure out which of the 2 I could remove. I just did it. 3 months go by. My doctor and I have a conversation, and she goes, "Are you still taking these 4 blah blah blah?" And I went, "Well, no, I'm only taking 2 of those." And she's like, "Why?" And I went, "Well, because you added 2 capsules of this other thing." And she went, "Red, that was to go with. We're adding to create a whole from many directions. These supplements are addressing one thing in many directions because I have a depletion of something in my body. And I went, huh, I wonder if that's why the new thing wasn't working as well. And she's just like, oh my God, Red, how did you not know that? Because it's a complex thing in my body that she's trying to address from many ways. And I'm human like everybody else. And I thought, oh, we're going to add the new thing. So it's going to work better. And I can just take something off my plate, right? Like, is that logical? Not really, not scientifically. This was an emotional, like my brain working different. But I think it's a good illustration of how humans by nature, we want, can I just take one thing instead of five things?
Right.
I get that. I literally recently experienced the reminder that I can't do that, right? But it goes further than that when you have people who prey on other people and their vulnerabilities and their trust and their hope, and you prey on their light being self that, oh, my friend here wouldn't hurt me by sharing this magical food formula of whatever it is, or this coaching formula, or whatever it is. And it's so easy for us to get trapped into it. I don't know if you remember Amway.
Vaguely.
Yeah, long time ago. So I remember when Amway like really got hot and thing, and a friend of mine in a family, they got really into Amway, and they had like pictures on their wall, like this is what this looks like, and this is what the ultimate goal is, and this is my timeline, and they have to get so many people in their downline for them to be an upline in this pyramid. It's a pyramid. And I remember hearing all about it. I went to my dad and I was like, have you heard of this thing? And my dad listened to me for a while and he goes, please don't do that. And I went, why? He goes, let me explain to you basic economics. And it was so funny. Like, I didn't really understand at the time. I really didn't. But ever since then, every time I encounter these little, there's a way they talk to you about it that gets you hooked in really well. There's a psychology to it.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm always like a little bit, what are you telling me about a whatever? Can I go buy it in a store? If I can't go buy it in a store, right? If there's a formula to it, if it relies on you hooking all of the people you know into it, you know, there's stuff, right? There's stuff. And it's insidious and it feeds on that trauma and it feeds on our hope, our vulnerability, our want for community, our want for connection, and our want for the one thing to fix it. We want that.
Simplicity. We want simplicity,
Yeah.
and we want success,
Yes.
and we want to feel good. You know,
Yeah.
as you're talking, I
Of course.
flashed back to being a little kid in elementary school and them having the fundraisers where they're like, if you sell this
Oh.
many things to this many people, we'll
Ooh.
give you this little prize. And I'm like, ooh, that's psychology. They get us young, right? And they start building
Oh.
up this like, you just have to be prolific and pushy,
I am
and you'll get the
so
reward.
anti-school fundraisers. You would not believe. I taught in the public school system and I'm the
Me
only
too.
teacher in the crowd going, absolutely not. Will
Mhm.
not. And this is why. And boy, they get upset when I went no. They're like,
Yeah.
how else are we going to get money? I went any other way. Any
Do
other
do a bake sale where the kids come together and you bake together, not supporting
way.
this
Right?
company that only makes their money off of pushing high school band students to sell to everyone that they know, right? Like,
Oh.
because it really, like, that is
Oh.
some grooming right there now that I think about
Oh,
it.
it is. It's
And that
very,
was,
very much grooming.
I mean, I could go off on a tangent because also was a
Mm-hmm.
public school teacher, and just how much that really is setting us up for these high achieving, quick fix, like solution kind of oriented stuff, but also being the peon is like totally normalized too. And so no wonder we grow up and then we're adults and we're looking around at the world, and these systems that we may have experienced in school are right out there in the real world, and then we're interfacing with them, and it's so easy to fall prey to them. And you know, I don't want to necessarily speak to any specific MLMs because I have a lot of dear people in my life who are still tangled up in some of them. And I have
Oh,
also some
yeah.
dear people in my life that have untangled from them. And there is the people that have untangled from them are like, oh, this was like a cult where I
Yeah.
was fighting for the leader ultimately for them to
Yep.
benefit. And
Mm-hmm.
without that quick fix mentality, would they have gotten there? Would these
Some of,
people have succeeded?
yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. Some very intelligent, I mean, highly intelligent, well-rounded people get sucked into this because they do these types of systems prey on the vulnerability of our hope.
Hmm.
And the other layer of this that is even scarier to me is it doesn't happen all the time, but I've seen it happen where these particular types of one size fits all hope prey paradigms, when people sometimes break out of it, but then get caught up in this conspiracy theory pyramid, because it's kind of the best way. It's the purple Kool-Aid. It's the purple Kool-Aid. Like, I
We're
can't.
waiting for it to come up this episode.
I've been trying not to say it, thinking, okay, how could I say this without saying
The
it's the
purple
purple
Kool-Aid.
Kool-Aid? Because it is. It's this another way of controlling through fear. So a lot of these structures, many of these cult-like preying on your hope thing, it goes into the toxic positivity thing, right? Like, it's the spiritual bypassing toxic positivity
Hmm.
paradigm. So that preys on one end of the shadow light spectrum, because I knew I was going to bring that up. It goes over here into this light, 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 light. We're only going to be light. We're only going to be positive. We're only going to think of our goals. We're only going to have people in our sphere that believe in the thing, right? And then they get out of it, or sometimes there are people who just gravitate towards the other side of the conspiracy theory. Everybody's out to get me, and I'm not safe from anyone and everywhere, and every single person is, that purple Kool-Aid. And that is over here in the shadow. That preys on the fear. That's where you get organizations like QAnon and nationalism, and you have these huge structures of fear, 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 fear. And there is no magic pill in either side of that. The magic is in the flow of allowing yourself to live in this spiral of
Yeah.
movement and critical thinking and going, oh, well, that's interesting. And I have questions. Or, oh, that's interesting. And my body says, that doesn't feel quite right. It doesn't mean you throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? Like,
Right.
it could be that there's a nugget there of something in that middle flow. It's interesting because I'm a I'm one of those people who listens to both sides. If I find a news article, I want to find an opposite news article, right? Like, I want to know what the fear side is talking about, and I want to know what the toxic light side is talking about, right? Like,
Yeah.
because there's a nugget in both sides that helps you navigate the middle. And the middle is balanced, and it's hard, and it's complex. I just had a conversation with somebody this morning, and it's one of the things that I wish I could remember where I first saw it, and maybe you've heard this too. It's that what is easy can be complex, and what can be hard can look easy, and you can have something that's hard that's also complex, and you can have something that's easy and also um, not complex, right? Like,
It's
there's
like a
there's a
quadrant.
yeah. And what you're kind of looking for is, light is easy, right? Dark is hard, right? I don't know. But in the middle there's a complexity, right? The middle is the complexity, the recognition that there is no one pill that's going to cure my everything. Like, I know, okay, now I have to add those two supplements back in. Okay, This other compounded medicine probably would work better if I hadn't eliminated like half of the formula that I'm taking naturally in this other supplement, and probably would have worked better. Novel that,
Hmm.
right? But I want it easy. I want it easy,
You want
and
it
it's
simple, yeah.
complex. I want it simple, but it's not. It's not simple, and it's not easy. It's complex, and it's a little hard because then I have to take more pills. Ugh. But we do this in so many things in our life.
Yeah.
And we have to dive into why we're doing that and stop it and help each other.
Well, the why we're doing it is trauma, right? And
Right?
my figure 8 or infinity flow, this is going to get published eventually, so everyone has a graphic to
Yes.
go with it. But you have that shadow side and you have that light side, and you could flip it if you want to do 5D at the top and 3D at the bottom. That's fine too.
Right.
But
Right.
shadow 5D, light 3D, you need both. You are an
Yes.
energetic, intellectual being, and you are a physical being.
Yes.
And that bypassing desire, I want to bypass the shadow, I don't want to look there, I don't want to go there, is a trauma response. And that bypassing is, I see it get so many people. I literally saw someone the other day, was like, "Oh, anger's low vibe," like, and we don't want low vibes. If you don't let yourself experience your anger, it's gonna bottle up and it is gonna blow someday, or it's gonna go toxic in your body, and you're gonna have health conditions crop up that you're like, "Oh, I don't know where this is coming from." And guess what? It's all your suppressed emotions. Like, you have to let that pressure valve off and go into the shadow and let those emotions be processed too. You can't just sit in the physicality of whatever things you're ignoring and barreling forward on. But we really want to simplify. And in that shadow, right, most of us didn't have that experience as kids of our shadows being validated, of
Mm-mm.
space being brought forward for us to process it. So we were literally told, swallow it down, right? Push it away, put it in the box, like suppress, suppress, suppress. So of course
Yeah.
we're like, oh, well, I want to suppress this response I'm having by taking the magic pill, by buying this product that's going to make me feel good about myself, right? By buying into this next big craze that everybody's on because everybody's on it and I want to be a part of the pack.
Well, it's that community piece, right? Like the metaphysical spiritual community for decades has been body, mind, spirit, body, mind, spirit, body, mind, spirit. Nobody is looking at the wheel. The wheel is not complete without body, mind, spirit, and emotion.
Yep.
And the body emotion combo is key. Or when you take body, mind, spirit and add community around it and there's no emotion in it, emotions flying away around up here, you can't bypass that. You cannot bypass. That's why communities blow up when emotion is not dealt with the shadow and light. When it's not dealt with, communities blow up, friendships blow up, organizations blow up. You can't go without a whole quadrant of the wheel and hope that body, mind, spirit's going to bring you community.
Right.
Back to the, oh my God, we're missing half of the purple Kool-Aid thing. Like it's I'm going to give you the purple Kool-Aid for this one quadrant. That's it. You don't get anything else.
Yeah. That's why
ah.
yeah, like I even moved away from being a therapist because there was such a focus on intellectualizing the emotions
Yes.
in order, right, by training, if we're actually
By
following
training.
the system,
Yep.
to logic through the emotions so that the
Yep.
emotions don't have to be felt, so that we can get back to work and do what we're supposed to do. Like, that is
Right.
why the system is in place the way that it is, right? It is
Of
to
course.
go back to being the peons in the public school room and go do your job and your cubicle and shut up and not do,
Right.
And I was like, no, because I started to study integrative medicine and I'm like, oh, okay,
Right.
now we're layering in the nutrition and the movement and the sleep. Oh my God, the sleep in with the intellectual. And you know what? I really want to experience the emotions. And so then I started to do more emotional modalities. And then I'm like, and still the spirit is now missing. There's more happening here than can be explored by, emotional words or intellectual words or even physicality. So we need to expand. And so that's how the birth of where I'm at now came about, was realizing like, oh, this doesn't feel right. Like it is incomplete. And so I love that you have the framework of the wheel because it affirmed my framework of the elements, earth, air,
Yes.
fire, water.
Earth, air, fire,
And
water, right?
and then how that all goes together, and we're, supposed to embody all of this,
All
and
of
then that
it.
comes
All of
together
it.
into the
Yes.
cosmos, which is the outside of the wheel and the community, the whole. And
Right.
so, I get so jazzed up about it because if we all had this understanding, if we all had this understanding of our wholeness, we wouldn't be as gullible to
Looking for the one
diminishing
thing.
ourselves.
Yes, I love that. Gullible to diminishing ourselves. I love that. Because no matter which side of that paradigm, that fear or that toxic light paradigm, you're still giving up a piece of yourself.
Yeah.
We can't deny our shadow. You can't be positive all the time. It's so funny. Like I have ADHD. We've talked about that. I got a little bit of autism, and one of the interesting things is I'm having this whole thing about my ADHD meds. I'm not going to go on to that here, but one of the things that has been palpable in the last couple of weeks is that my emotional dysregulation is getting worse, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I use it as, it's not really that it's worse, it's always there. But the problem is that without this lovely stimulant to help my ADHD regulate, my autism is screaming in the background because the autism's like, this is what I plan to do, so this is the thing I'm going to do. And the extreme sensitivity that comes with autism does not handle the fly by night ADHD. Oh, we can change. It's not a big deal. We'll just
You're
pivot
right.
and move, right? The autism part of me is like, oh, hell no, we ain't doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So my medication helps the ADHD be calmer so the autism doesn't panic every single time I have to pivot.
Right.
And that is a beautiful light shadow side of me, drives me crazy, drives people around me crazy because there's positives and negatives to all of that. But it's also, it just is. I don't want to make myself a different person. I don't wish that I don't have ADHD. I don't wish that I don't have autism. I mean, I'm over 50 years old. It's not going to change. So, hello, I might as well be okay with it. I am okay with it. But the amount of people that I have talked to, watched, videos on YouTube, reels on Instagram, all these people talking about how much they want this fix to it. I don't want a fix. I kind of like my meds to regulate the ADHD so the autism isn't so like upset right now, but I don't, there's no one thing that's going to fix that. And there's this paradigm with mental disabilities. There's a paradigm with physical disabilities. Pick a disability. There's a lot of them. Mental, emotional, all of these things where why can't we have one pill that makes it all go away?
Right.
And I'm like, I can't imagine my life without the spiciness. Like, life would be kind of boring. I like the spiciness. I kind of don't like where it's going right now, but I can be okay with the journey because I'm learning something from it, right?
Right.
And this one, there is no magic pill, is bypassing the shadow and light of your journey and your lesson. I'm not positive all the time. I know I've had people go, Red, you're always such in a good mood, or Red, you're so even keeled. Red, like they make all these comments. I'm like, you are getting a piece of a huge picture that is not what you think it is.
Mm-hmm.
Not to dismiss that your perception of me is what it is. That's okay. I can't change that. But that's just what life is. You're getting slivers of people as you gradually know them. And I've been married now, and I've been with the same person for almost 2 full decades, and I'm still surprised. Like, this is somebody I live with. I'm with them all the time. And he said something the other day, and I went, oh,
You love when that happens.
wow. Okay, I got to go over here in my corner and like process that. That was deep. Where did that come from? Well, because he has a whole life in him. There's a wholeness there. and he's having experiences and he's healing and he's going through all these things. We've got to stop trying to shove each other in these boxes of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Conformity and minimalism is what comes up for me, because as
Yeah,
you're sharing all of this, what's coming in for me is this: everybody in society, pretty much, at least those that are not running around as billionaires, millionaires right now, have a pressure to not starve to death, right? They have a survival need right now.
right,
And we have been taught that in order to survive, we need to conform. In order
right.
to survive, we need to not stand out and, get thwacked with the stick. Go back into your box, go back into hiding, right? We've all not I I would actually wager that every single person that's alive at some point has been told to make themselves
Oh, yeah.
smaller, or no, you don't do that here. Oh, we don't talk
Hmm.
about that here, right? I think we've
Oh,
all
yeah.
had that kind of experience. And once we've had that kind of experience, especially if the first time was when we were a child, especially before the age of 6, right? That's
Yes.
really going to stick in there of, oh,
Hmm.
well, this part of me is not acceptable, so I'm going to hide this part of me, at least around this person, right?
Yeah.
And that, like, ADHD and autism and neurodivergence in general, right? We are like told your brain is wrong.
Hmm.
You like, oh, you weren't built right because you are diverging from the norm, right? And then
Right.
automatically there's a narrative of, oh, well, then I should try and fix myself and, like, get back to being like everybody
Hmm.
else. And that's not how it should be at all. But that is our dominant society. Is I go down the check boxes and I'm just forced to check the boxes society told me to check, even if I don't agree with them. And so many of us are still trying to break free from that. But at the same time, we also feel the stuckness, so many of us, that I can't leave this. I'm going to die. I'm going to starve. I'm going to be abandoned. I'm not going to have a community. I'm not going to be able to
Yes.
live. Right? This, like, and that fear, it just can run the show.
I wonder, because I've wondered about this before. So I went a good 46 years, 47 years of my life before I knew for sure that I had autism and ADHD, right? Autism first, then ADHD. And it's very interesting that I've known people that have fallen into these paradigms of, here's the quick, the MLM structure or the conspiracy theory structure. So I'm saying the fear and the light extreme paradigms, right? And I look back at some of them, and it's very interesting listening to some of the dialogue on social media and some of the different YouTube videos and stuff about people who are late diagnosed, and how some of them with this neurospiciness, right? They are seeking so much of that validation that they're falling into these places, not all the time, but some of them are. And I look at the late diagnosis as, aha, this explains the thing. Not that there's something wrong with me, but that it validates my unique experience, right?
Hmm.
And the one size fits all pill and drinking the purple Kool-Aid seems to come from when you're invalidated, when that trauma is introduced and you're trying to find those connections, that something that's easy really feels good because everything in your life is so hard already.
Yeah. Well,
And I can see why.
the MLM structure is building community, or what looks like community. It might not
What
really
looks,
be.
it's not
It,
community,
it's
it's
very
something else.
rarely community. I can't imagine, but it gives that image of community that people so desire.
Yeah,
And then, the conspiracy theorists are giving validation to the awful experiences people are having by probably, in most cases, blowing them wildly out of proportion and making it
usually.
something even more toxic. And
Hmm.
so both of those are bypassing one aspect or another. And so I really
Yep.
want to go back to the shadow flow because it's so
Yep.
important. You have to embrace at least the
Mhm.
middle, right? If you can't go to the
Yeah.
other extreme that you're not used to yet, no worries. It's like there's Ike and I want to do an animated GIF of this sometime. If you imagine your little bubble is like this big, and you're in your
Hmm.
little bubble and you're feeling very limited because you're cramped in there, right? It's because you're only allowing yourself to access a little bit of the light or a little bit of the
A little
shadow.
bit of shadow. Yep.
To expand, you have to go more into the shadow, and then that gives you a little more room, and then you can go more into the light, and you can keep expanding and growing your capacity
Hmm.
to go between them. And it's like, then we can do this full flow. Like, I can feel ecstatic bliss now, or I can
Yeah.
feel the absolute depths of despair and
Depths
bawl
of
my eyes
despair.
out and like be a mess and fall apart, and then
Mhm.
go, oh, wow, I got it all out. Thank goodness. Ah, that was beautiful. And now I
Yeah.
get to spring back into the light and to try and cut, and put one on that side and one on this side and really just focus over here. We that in of itself is like trying to force a magic pill, right? Like, oh, I'll just stay over here and everything will get better. Or I will wallow in absolute despair and life is not worth living and I hate everything. And
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, neither side ultimately is healthy and can absolutely lead to feeling dissociated, disconnected, re traumatized, confused.
Well, and then you can add on to it, right? Like as soon as you add more trauma and you don't deal with it, it's got to go somewhere. It doesn't just disappear because you've ignored it.
Yes, I have a metaphor that I use with people all the time that it's like you have a basement, okay? Everybody in this metaphor has a basement. Some of the basements might literally be a door that opens to like a panel. There's not really stairs down. Some people might have the full stairs down and then a huge like mansion-sized basement. Some people's basements are, medium-sized, whatever. Some people can pack away more trauma in a shoebox, shove it in the shoebox and put it in the basement. And they can pack more trauma in there than others before they open the door and it spills out. Our
Yep.
capacity is different. But each of us will hit a point where if we're not actively taking the shoeboxes out of the basement and opening them up and, oh, I don't need this anymore, or, oh, I'm going to put this on my shelf, or this is
Hmm.
going in the incinerator because it's just not for us, right? Like,
Hmm.
unless we're doing that active sorting, all of us at some point will open that door to shove that trauma shoebox in there and it will all just come tumbling out.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's when we have complete and utter mental breakdowns, when we
Yep.
get really, really sick, when we
Hmm.
start sabotaging everything around us to
Oh, yeah.
try and
Oh, yeah.
manage and like make us have less to deal with. And again, that's
Oh,
that
yeah.
like I'll quick fix it, slap a band-aid on it and move
Hmm.
on. And no, like it doesn't work that way, my friends. I'm so sorry. I always say if I could have a magic wand and you could come talk to me once and I could be like, wow, you're all better now.
Wow. Yeah.
Yay.
Of
I'd be
course.
really, really rich and the world would be a
Right.
much happier place because I would gladly do that for everyone, but that's not
Of
how it
course.
works.
It isn't how it works. And the reality of how this how this connects in with how people live their day-to-day lives. Like this year we have a lot of stuff inundating us in the media, social media. It's everywhere. You can't turn around and not have something in your face. You can't drive down the road without somebody's fear paradigm, conspiracy, whatever in your face. And there was a very interesting article that led me to, well, I went down a rabbit hole. I completely confess. But the article was actually well put, and it was from a Christian religious organization in the United States, and they were saying that we have to be more discerning as a whole subset of a population. It was very eloquently said, um, about discerning from what's good and what's bad, even though it's got this name Christian on it. And I thought it was a very well written article from a group of people that are being lumped in to an entire radical perspective over here, right?
Right.
And then on this other side, which is where I went down that other rabbit hole, is there somebody on this other side talking about discernment? Is there another perspective of what is liberal, right? Like whatever it is, right? And it was a very interesting, people are starting to be more vocal about in our world today, especially this year, because we have such polarities going on, about how do you discern? How do you find your middle? How do you find your flow? And it's so easy to get caught up in fear and toxic light stuff. It's very easy to go there. And right now in our world, we're seeing that. We're seeing these huge, just huge polarities. And there are a lot of people that I've talked to that have come in for session. We're talking about whatever it is spiritually. And sure enough, that stuff from the outside world trickles in. But it trickles in usually by the question, I'm overwhelmed, don't know how to deal with it. I think I have an opinion, but I don't know where to go with it. I don't know where the middle is anymore. A lot of people don't know where the middle is in their day-to-day life, much less what the middle is from a huge political, social worldview thing, right? And that's where people just get lost. And that's where that purple Kool-Aid or that magic pill temptation comes in. It's easy because it's so big. If you can't manage the polarity and that flow in yourself, anything that comes at you from the outside makes it even more tempting.
Oh, what just immediately came in there too is that by adopting these, I can fix this. There is a quick fix mentality. When we look at the collective global junk happening, we feel like there needs to be a solution that's easy to implement for that. And then that creates even more tension. One of my partners, we had to have a really serious talk. I was like, you cannot read the news every day. You can't, because I witnessed what it's doing to your energy, because it's dragging you down to the bottom of despair, and you don't, and you realize, I can't fix this. I cannot fix this. And that's so overwhelming, especially if we're, genuinely like a good-hearted, like we're aware of our good-heartedness. We're not ourselves stuck in the fear paradigm, but we get swept up in it. We can absolutely drown in that. And I was like, you can't keep doing that, because there is no quick fix for it. And so you're going to continue to see this over and over and over again, and you're going to go bonkers. So what can you do is you can keep working in yourself and the polarity in yourself, and learn to anchor in the pleasure, the joy, the calm, the peace over and over and over again, until when you hear this atrocious news, which it's happening everywhere right now, and I don't want to bypass that, but when we're in joy, peace, calm, neutrality, we can actually look at, okay, well, what can I actually do about this, right?
Yes.
And that's the key.
What can be your impact in the big thing? Because there is no one fix. There's no magical person that's going to get elected. There's no magical event that's going to wave its magic wand and it's all going to be better. And I'm a fan of history, and I've read a lot of history. And I know people think history is boring because they probably had a really boring ass history teacher in high school and it toxified them for life. And they probably think I'm crazy. Like, why would you read history on purpose? That's in the past. Because humans make the same mistakes over and over and over again. Let me tell you, history is fascinating because people make the same mistakes in different ways all of the time. And the thing that caught me, because I had a dad who was really into history, and so my history teachers were awful, but I'd go home and I'd say, Papa, I don't understand this. And he'd go, oh, you only got half the story. Here, let me tell you the whole rest of the history. And he made it fun, and it was interesting. And so I know from having studied history that if we don't pay attention to what we've done before, we will probably do it again in a unique and different way and make it worse. Yay. So when I'm looking at, when you work on yourself, right, and you find that equilibrium in self, you find that centeredness, that high and low of what you can handle. I think one of our friends calls it resilience, right? You find where your resilient place is. I like the analogy of that bubble, right? Like you were in the bubble and you had no space to move, but you've expanded a little shadow, you've expanded a little light, you've expanded a little bit more shadow, a little bit more light. You now have space to look at the big thing that tells you fear, 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 whatever it's telling you, the overwhelm of I can't fix this, right? That's when you go, okay, I've given myself some space now. What are the things that I can do with the people I know? And how can I connect with them and discuss in a not too big. I think there's a in the 9 numbers like quadrant of discussion, uh, you being a 9, right? Like it gets big really fast, right? And I think this is where some of our other numbers can teach us how do we be in now, and how do we do this together? Like okay, your group of friends next year to work on the global food crisis, blah, 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 right? The big thing. How about a group of 5 families that you know get together and each of you have a garden in your yard? And as 5 families together, co-opt. You each go to each other's yard gradually over the season and help each other with it. No one family's holding the garden all by themselves, right? Because that's too big, that's too much. Your capacity isn't there yet, right? Say one of your friend families lives in a town where there's a meat place, like an organic meat butcher. That person might be the person that does the shopping. Like everybody's pooled in and does the shopping for the 5 families because they have to go there for work anyway. So no one person has to go out of their way and add a load to their wholeness, right? We have to stop looking at to do the thing, I have to carry it all by myself. Back to the wheel. We are not supposed to be doing it by ourselves. Nothing in this world, nothing is done in isolation. Even the work you're doing on yourself. You're the only one in that meat suit, but I'll argue that. That's a whole different conversation. But you yourself is connected to other people. So yeah, you're the only one in there. But to heal, you need the collective to help you see yourself from the outside. You're not going to have an accurate perception of all of who you are just from the inside of your meat suit. It doesn't mean that your felt sense is not right. It means even you can't see the whole picture without the outside collective.
Yes. I was just having a conversation with one of my partners the other day, and that exact thing came up. I said, I'm bringing this up because I know you can't see this about yourself, but this is how it's creating the dynamic in your relationships. And it was a gentle delivery, but yeah, like I'm always like, please tell me if you see something. I know
I do that too.
Because we have blind spots. So there's 2 things from that I want to go back to. One is being gradual, and 2 is the idea of the legacy burdens that we have, because I am a big fan of internal family systems, which was founded by Dick Schwartz, another psychotherapist. His work is really based on shamanism, which is a whole other story, but he kind of took some of these principles that he didn't know were actually from shamanism until years later, fun fact. But he started to study the burdens that we carry, and he's from the United States as well. And so, of course, his study is in the United States. And he discovered that there are 4 main what he calls legacy burdens that we carry. So racism, sexism, individualism, and consumerism. And so the 2 that really play into this quick fix are the consumerism and the individualism. I want to be able to solve this, and I know I can go buy something that will do this, because that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be good little consumers and contribute to the economy, because that makes us a good citizen. That's a whole story.
Please don't buy the magic mat that goes under your computer that keeps the aliens from mind controlling you. Please don't do that. That's a thing.
Please
don't.
God, haven't heard that one yet. But it's like we need to be discerning. Like just as an example, I got this crystal. I love this crystal. I love crystals. They don't magic fix anything. There are people who are actually like, this crystal will be what you need to get through this thing that you're going through. And if you buy this crystal, like, you know, miraculous things are going to happen. No. However, they might help you anchor into yourself more. They might be a pretty
Right.
thing that you can look at that will remind you that you're working on that thing. There could be some energy healing. There could be some placebo effect, right? I'm not going to judge,
Absolutely.
but it's not going to fix anything. So that's, I wanted to go to the gradual piece. I have another metaphor that I really love to offer people, which is you have a train and the train is moving at 100 miles per hour going east. You cannot turn that train around and make it go 100 miles an hour west like that, because everything inside would go and would implode and it would be a physics nightmare. You can't do that. You have to slowly turn, like slowly slow the train down, gradually push the brake, and then you could turn the train around and start going in the other direction. So
Yep.
again, another metaphor for no quick fixes, because a lot
Nope.
of us see, you know, the country, going back to the United States right now, is not at its best. I don't know that it's ever been at its best, if I'm being perfectly honest, but it's certainly sped up going in a direction that is not great recently. And we can't, again, we're not going to be able to quick fix one leader. No one leader is going to turn that ship around. It's going to take every person anchoring in to their neutrality, their peace, their joy, their bliss, right? Moving up that paradigm of light and acknowledging the shadows, acknowledging the toxicity, acknowledging what's not a gem in the rough, but actually
Nope.
something that's a big heaping pile of dung that needs to be cleaned out. And that
Yes.
takes gradual work.
And we all have fluctuations. We have good days, we have bad days. You know, no one perfect person, no one modality is the everything. It's
Yes.
very interesting. I was just having a conversation with somebody this morning where I've talked a lot about how the 9 number modality has been, for me as a practitioner, a missing piece. But I've never said it's the only thing. I've
Right.
said it's a piece because there's a wholeness of a little bit here and a little bit here and a little bit here when you're untangling the bullshit, as we have talked about before, when you're untangling the truth with a capital T from the bullshit with a capital B. You know, you have to be real with it. And there's no, I wish I could go in to every single time somebody has brought me a thing. I get clients that bring me the thing all the time. Oh, I bought this thing, and I'm like, God, please don't tell me how much that is. And they're like, oh, it's $3,000, and I'm like, oh my God, I wish I had $3,000 in a pile. You know, like
Right.
to just spend on a thing, or $6,000 for this machine, or $500 for this magical thing, or and I get where there's a consumer idea that you pay what you get for, right? Like a good quality thing might cost you a little bit more, right? I've had these earpods, this particular cheap ass version of earpods for 2 years. I love them. I broke one. I stepped on one a couple of years ago, so I had to buy a new pair. But they're $30. They're $30. They're the best ones I've ever used. Do you know how often the Bose headphones, like fancy schmancy, however many $100 thingies comes up on my ad? I understand where some things come from, but I also want people to think about it. Like, there's no magical thing that you're going to put on your computer that's going to keep the cyber terrorists away from your computer if they want to get in there. There is also, as far as I know, I've not had any validation that there are little green alien men living under the Denver airport that are trying to mind control people, and putting a magic mat underneath my computer is not going to solve that problem. Because they don't think it is a problem.
It's like, what if we, like, all the, that's such an interesting narrative too, like mind control. We're being mind controlled, or we're being, you know, oh, I don't even know. Like, because it's those people that are allowing the story to control their fear paradigm and make them do crazy things. You know, you said, like, I wish I had $3,000 piled around. The thing is that most people that I hear buying these magical fixes, they don't have the money sitting around to go buy
They
those things.
don't.
They put it on a credit card, or they take out a loan, or they get a payment plan, because those are the people that are like, I'm stuck in this situation. I
I
don't want to
need
be
the
in it
thing.
anymore. I need the thing to make it better. And again, I always like to say, no shame, friends, because I know this and I've been there myself. I've paid thousands of dollars to a coach to have them teach me a framework that didn't fit me at all and was not it was one size fits all. And that's not what I believe in, right? I have
No,
bought supplements that I'm like, oh, the supplement alone is going to make my hair stop falling out. Nope. Gotta get in
nope.
the foundations of the physicality and the nutrition and the heal, all of that.
Yeah.
All of these things that we are just like, we want it to be simple. We want to be in less pain.
A couple of years ago, I had a client say, Red, what should I do for this? And I went, well, I've given you this tool, this tool, this tool, this tool, which eventually turned into the 5 pillars of self-care, basically. And I actually have had people say, well, can't I just do one of these 5 things? And I'm like, nope, it's a whole thing. You're
Yep.
not actually addressing all the pieces.
Yep.
And anybody that tries to tell you there is one thing, please run away. Please run away. Please go. I have a little voice in my head that says Safrianna and Red said, there's no one fix. I should turn around and walk away. I can do it with a smile. I can do it with grace. I can do it with honor and integrity. I don't have to call them idiots, but I need to walk away. I need to walk away and give myself 48, 72 hours to really process that, because there is no one way. There is no one way.
Yeah, and I just I want to say to that too, sometimes we are approached by these people who want us to buy into something, that want to give us the fix, and it can bring up a lot of emotions. I know I still, for example, have a message on unread from a friend who bought into an MLM and was very much like, this is the thing. And I'm like, well, first of all, that thing is thousands of dollars. And I don't have that many thousands of dollars to spend on this thing right now. So no, thank you. Oh, well, you could take out a credit card. No, thank you. And then I straight up said, I've reflected on it more. It's not for me. And this friend still came back and was like, well, tell me why it's not for you. And I can tell it's because I'm going to try and convince you that you need it. And I know it's because this friend really wants stability and wants to believe in the product that they're selling.
Absolutely.
And wants to not experience fear, shame, disappointment that maybe it wasn't the right choice. And so if you're in a situation where you have a loved one who's trying to sell you on the magic pill, you're allowed to say no, you're allowed to have your boundaries. And if they keep pressing, you're allowed to push the boundary much more firmly. And if they keep going, you're allowed to cut contact if you have to, right? Like it's sad that people get so lost in the sauce with these things, out of that fear, out of that desire to help maybe, but also the desire to not be in that fear of whatever thing that they fear or that pain that they're experiencing. It sucks.
Yeah, and you can love people that get into that. I have experienced it myself. There are people I dearly adore. I absolutely adore them. They're wonderful humans, but they're caught. And you can't, it's kind of like that cult mentality. We know from psychology, from research, we know that you can't rationalize someone out of it. You can't. It's an emotional trauma journey. That is what it is. So you and I might know the science behind why this thing is a complete fucking scam, but that's not going to help the person that is trying to get you to buy the thing. Like, if you're not. And I know I pick on the little green men under the Denver airport. I admit that I'm totally picking on them. I am. Because I can't help it. But I've actually read some pretty cool mental gymnastics explanations to make that real. OMG.
Ooh.
I'm not saying there aren't aliens. I've never argued that there are or are not. I accept that that could be a thing. I'm okay with that. 100%. It could be, I don't know, an alien in a meat suit. Haven't met one yet, but it could be. And the little green men under the Denver airport, that was really, really funny. And some of the mental gymnastics they get to make that sound real is fascinating.
And they do it in MLMs. They do it in organizations that are pushing that one size solution. It's yeah, we don't
It's
want to
a
be
thing.
wrong. We want to be right, and we want to be wealthy, and we want to be secure, and
I
we want to be
know.
safe, and we want to be supported, and we want to be not traumatized, but we shouldn't be traumatizing other people in the name of escaping our own trauma either. So, yes.
I like how you said we don't like to be wrong. I think one of the things, I had a student actually say it recently in a class. She goes, yeah, that's actually the reason I wanted to take this class. And I went, why? Because they were, I don't remember what was said. And she outright said, she goes, Red, you admit when you don't know something. And you go, oh, I discovered I was wrong. She goes, you know how great that is? Nobody does that. And I went, really? I like live my life in being wrong.
And that's a good thing, right? That you have that capacity. And I just want to share, like, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I don't have that capacity, you can grow into it, right?
Oh, yeah.
It takes
Oh, yeah.
surrounding ourselves with safe people that
Yep.
don't make us wrong for being wrong. That's the difference,
That.
right? It's like we can be
Uh-huh.
wrong and go, oh, okay. Well, sorry
Yeah.
about that. But when people make us wrong, oh, you're bad because you didn't know this answer. Or, yeah,
Bad because you're wrong. That is shaming
that's
and
shaming.
toxic and awful.
Run.
That's as bad as the purple Kool-Aid. Like, just don't do it.
Yep.
Just don't do it.
Don't shame people for being wrong because we all make mistakes. We probably all make mistakes on the daily in some capacity.
Oh, God, yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, this was a very, I feel like this was one of our most passionate conversations yet. And I think we actually do have a couple of topics that we have coming up.
Woo!
We might be talking about the patriarchy soon. That will
Oh,
be
yeah.
exciting. And maybe some more deep dive into some blueprint stuff. But
Yes.
if there's a topic you want to see Red and I talk about, please let us know. Reach out via DM, send me an email at guide@safrianna.com, whatever. Get in touch and be like, I love your talks. Talk about this, please. Because we would love to. We love having these conversations.
Oh, this is always fun. It always just blossoms into its own thing. Like, yep, that's the thing.
So we will see you next time in another 2 weeks. And we are just sending you bucket loads of love. We believe in you. We know that the world is a tricky place out there. And by being discerning, by trusting in your own higher guidance and expanding into your shadow and light, you can change just about anything. So,
yep, you can do it. And you're not alone.
yes.